Hello everyone, and welcome back to World of Warships Blitz with Terry. Today we're doing something a little bit different, because today I'm actually not going to show you a review, I'm going to show you how I'm making a World of Warships Blitz review video. Pretty much in all steps, just, as a bit of a behind the scenes sort of look that I would like to give you. So, how does this usually work? Well, generally, in my press account, I will find mail like this when there's a new ship coming out. Now, this one is the one from the current Blitz Pass, and I've actually been a bit late with getting it, so you probably have seen it already. But this is how it normally starts for me. I receive a mail with a ship. So in this case, it's something Soviet, and we're gonna have to figure out how to pronounce that. But we'll get to that in a minute. First of all, let's actually get the ship. There we go. And now I'm going to have to... It helps to remember which... at least a little bit, because I have a lot of ships here. And we're obviously now going to have to change the port to match the nationality of the ship that we've actually been sailing. Never mind the broken UI, but that is the right port. Okay. So here we have a tier 6 premium Soviet Russian ship, and I know nothing about it. So what is the very next thing that I'm going to do? Well, first of all, I'm going to have a look at the details. And okay, now this already tells me something. It used to be, this is a Giulio Cesare, and it's a tier 6 Giulio Cesare. Okay, so it was transferred to the Soviet Union as part of war reparations. So it's a post-war. And in the 50s, major overhaul, received Soviet AA guns and detection equipment. Okay, so it's a Cesare, and we've got engine boost, a rapid reload, and a sonar, and an additional Damacon, like it is in the Soviet battleship lines. Okay, cool. So this usually is where I stop looking at the game. Because this is usually where I start looking at some research and finding out what this thing actually is. So the first stop was my library, and there are two books that I've pulled out. Given that this is a Soviet battleship, probably the best reference I have in English language about anything Russian or Soviet is this one, Stalin's Ocean-Going Fleet by Rover and Monakov. So that's something we can check for some context. And I've got the ubiquitous Campbell's Naval Weapons of World War II, because it did say something that it got Soviet guns installed. But let's begin with Stalin and see what we can find. So, going through the index, and where are we? N. Where are we? Nostroshimi. There it is. 184 to 117. So let's check out 184. Let's see what's mentioned there. The reason I generally like looking at this is because it does give, besides the stats, it does give a little bit of context. So sorry, I'm doing this with one hand, because the other hand I'm using to actually film this. Should probably be getting a stand or anything for doing this. There we go. 184. Anything interesting here? So this is just a mention. Okay, so here it is. This is just a mention that this is the ex Giulio Cesare, and she was lost by a mine explosion in Sevastopol. Okay, it's good to know. What was the other one? Give me a sec. Okay, here we are on page 217. So, and here it gets actually quite interesting, because it does mention a little bit of context. So Kuznetsov, Admiral Kuznetsov, was the chief of the Soviet Navy at the time in the 1950s, and he was a carrier proponent. And it turned out that once Stalin died and Khrushchev came into power, he wasn't quite happy with this idea. So he was kind of critical of this whole thing. And if we're looking here, I think this is where the ship comes in. Yes. So after when it sank after hitting a mine in Sevastopol, there was an opportunity to lay the blame on Kuznetsov's door, notwithstanding the fact he was already ill when the explosion occurred. So he was relieved of command and demoted to Vice Admiral because of unsatisfactory handling of his post as Commander-in-Chief of the Navy and First Deputy Defense Minister. So this is interesting. So there's a bit of a political slant here. So we know already that this is the Giulio Cesare. We know that it was given to the Soviets as reparation. We know that she was upgraded, but we haven't really seen anything in the sources on that yet. And we know that her sinking was used as a political vehicle to get rid of Kuznetsov as Chief of Navy. So that's something interesting. Now, the next thing we're going to have to find out is how to pronounce this thing, because I generally try to, as much as possible, pronounce them correctly. I don't always get it right, but I think it's the very least you can do to make an effort. My go-to site for that is forvo.com, because they tend to have native speakers doing things, and this is probably a city of something similar. So let's put that in there. See if anything comes up. It actually does come up empty, which is unusual, but sometimes it happens. So then the next best bet that I have is to check Wiktionary, but oftentimes you find you don't find much if you do it on the. So if we were searching this for the English spelling, we would find the definition, the city in southern Russia, but it doesn't tell us anything about the pronunciation. So if you look for the Cyrillic version of it, then you oftentimes tend to find more pronunciation hints. So it means New Russia, apparently, and it is from the IPA something like Novorossiysk. Let's see how it sounds.
Novorossiysk.
So Novorossiysk. Okay, so Novorossiysk. So that's what we're dealing with. All right, cool. Then the next stop, just in terms of general history, a good first stop, if the source literature doesn't show up anything immediately, is going to be Wikipedia. Surprisingly, I mean, Wikipedia is not a neutral source; it's a biased source, of course, but it generally tends to have a couple of good links to things, and especially the Soviet stuff tends to be rather hard to find. But given that this was an Italian battleship, we might find something interesting here. So here we go. Giulio Cesare was allocated to the Soviets, part of war operations, and was renamed Novorossiysk after the city of the same name. They used her as a training ship and gave her 8 refits. Okay, so there were some refits. Refits generally would touch something like AA, torpedoes, secondaries, that sort of thing. Probably the main guns are still the same, but we're gonna have to take a look. And in 1953, all the Italian AA guns were replaced with 37 millimeters, fire control and radar. So we've already seen she doesn't get a radar in game, but this is not always accurate. Temporary rearmament, and they had plans to replace the 120 millimeter secondaries with 130 millimeter SM2s. I think these were. I know that there are on some of the higher tier Soviet destroyers. Was it the Grozovoy or the Udaloy? I'm not 100% certain, because some of them use a slightly different turret. But I've definitely seen these guns before. And the 100 millimeters were supposed to be replaced with 8 quad 45s. But they were only planning that, so they might not have gone through with it, because an explosion ripped a 4 by 14 meter hole in the forecastle, and couldn't control the flooding, capsized with a loss of 608 men while in port. Wow. Including the men sent from other ships to assist. So that went catastrophically wrong. Cause is still unclear. Official course, most probable was a bottom mine laid by the Germans and triggered by the dragging of the battleship's anchor chain. Okay, so a bottom naval mine would be not one that floats. So you have the free floating naval mines. So those that are anchored in at the bottom, but I have the spiky ball things that you normally have. But a bottom mine would be something that you'd lay in a shallow place, and to trigger something like to be triggered by submarines or to be triggered by ships that that would come close enough. And these usually have pretty massive charges. So damage was consistent with an explosion of about a ton of TNT. Yep, and more than one mine may have detonated. Other explanations have been proposed. So there are some conspiracy theories here. Yes, Italian frogmen probably, because they've done that before, or at least attempted. Who were on a mission of vengeance or sinking it on behalf of NATO. Not completely out of the question, that one. So she was stricken from the naval register, salvaged and scrapped. Okay, so now we know a little bit about the ship's history, and we've got a couple of interesting talking points. So we know that she was having an AA refit, but they might not have gotten around to replacing the secondaries. So we'll have to check in game if that's matching up. And she sunk by most likely triggering a mine that the Germans have left behind in the port. But there are some conspiracy theories that the Italians, maybe as part of a NATO operation, were sinking her using frogmen and something like a limpet mine. So, and yes, obviously what we've read that that Kuznetsov it was used politically to disgrace Kuznetsov and remove him from his position because he was still insisting on a carrier force. Okay, so that's all good stuff for the history section. So the next thing I do generally is to take a look at the stats. I know I do this during the video, during the actual review recording, but this isn't the first time I'm looking at the stats. I normally take a peek before that, after getting a general idea and see what's going on there. So let's compare her to the Giulio Cesare and see. We've already seen that the stats are the ship skills are differing. So probably the sonar here is a little nod to the Soviets installing a more modern radar suite on this thing. She does get more hit points, now marginally so. A little bit better fire flooding resistance and torpedo. She does get better engines, but a worse turn time. That is completely bonkers. I mean, this is the same ship, right? They modified her, but they didn't do anything with which would massively influence the rudder shift, unless they did something like stick torpedo bulges onto the ship, maybe. But generally, no, I don't quite see why that would be a thing. And yes, the guns should be the same. So they should be the 1934 guns, the 320 mils, which are the bored out 305 millimeter. They have a slightly different description, but I think they are in the end the same guns. And it's the same set. They actually do better high explosive, but less armor piercing damage for some reason, and the turret traverses a bit faster. This is all just game balancing shenanigans. And yes, we have the 120 millimeters here because while the Soviets were planning to stick the 130 millimeter guns on that, they didn't get around to it because it blew up before that. So that's why we're still having the 120s here. And the AA is a disappointment because they did replace the Italian AA guns with some Soviet guns, but there's no difference, right? And there's literally no difference. So that's a bit of a disappointment for it being up-tiered. And the surface detection is the same. Now I'm assuming they haven't buffed the AP damage because they've given her a rapid reload. So that's probably what's meant to make up for this. Then the very next thing I'm doing is, first of all, I'm going to have a quick look on how I'm going to set her up. So given it's a premium, we can either get hit points, small caliber AA, and torpedo damage reduction, or torpedo damage reduction. Given that we have a low starting point of 13.5%, the 10% isn't really going to do any difference. So we're going to go for the hit points because that's more useful in general, not just against torpedoes. Given that's a premium, I am going to put the historical camo onto that thing. Although that's an extremely lazy camo. I mean, there's nothing on it. Like, that's just a shade darker. So that's a bit lazy. I mean, other Soviet historical camos I think look a little bit better. Yeah, like that, right? That'd be nice. I mean, you could even make it look like that, but that's a bit disappointing. Anyway, what do we get? So the standard battleship set, I believe. Yes. So that's that. Supplies is no surprise. We just put the battleship set in, which is nope, not that one. Why am I having the high grade coal? It was lagging a little. Switch that to auto resupply. Equipment. We can put the main battery mod 2 in there, maybe. What's the turret traverse on this thing? I mean, the turn time is not great. 5.5 is not terrible, so it's got 20-second base reload, plus we've got the rapid reload. But these are 320mm guns at tier 6. So how does that compare to the Andrea Doria? That might be an interesting, because she also gets the 320s. So that might be another interesting one. This is also something I just do during initial testing to figure out which ships I want to compare to. So how does she compare to the Doria's guns? Not the same range and worse AP. But other than that, actually reasonably similar. So an interesting question will be, how does the dispersion play out? But okay, Novorossiysk equipment. Yeah, I mean, we could we secondary spec that thing? It's a bit of a question. I mean, the armor isn't great for tier 6, and this looks like she's pretty high in the water actually. Why is that? I mean, look at this, right? You see this? That thing is much higher in the water. So one note for research is to check if they did something with the torpedo protection system, because the initial quick scan didn't reveal anything. So I'm going to have to do some more specific research and find out if they did anything that would cause the ship to be higher in the water. But that is significantly higher than the Cesare. So this means that you probably get more hits on the side here. But interesting that. Anyway, we'll go with a mod 2 for now, and we'll see how well the turrets behave. I changed this around during testing. I just start out with something that makes sense, and then we'll go with the canonical setup here, and that. And then it's a level 6, so I'm going to put a level 6 commander in there. I'm not sure I actually have one. I do. Yep, you can go in there. Because I try to match it somewhat to what somebody would have. I mean, it's a premium, so somebody who has a high tier Soviet battleship commander might put it in there. But if you look at, so just for the rationale, if we look at the Soviet battleship tech tree, I don't think these guys will get, these guys get the precise aiming, which means it's a different skill set, which means the commanders are not applicable, because you would spec them for marksman and not for rapid reload. That said, I might put a level 10 commander in here just for the master reloader. Does anything else on the Soviet line have a rapid reload? I'm pretty sure the Oktyabrskaya doesn't have. She's got precise aim, yes. Does anything else on the Soviet tech tree get rapid reload? I don't think so. The battleships don't get it. The Petro gets the precise aim. The Nevsky gets the precise aim, and the destroyers obviously don't get it either. So unless the Kaba gets the rapid reload. Yeah, but you wouldn't put a Kaba captain into this thing, because then you'd have the engine boost and smoke potentially specs. Okay, I'm gonna put a level 10 commander in here. Just to and I'm going to just respec them, so just to to get the effect of the rapid reload to its full extent. Not sure if everybody would have a level 10. You would have at least probably a level 10 commander that you may be able to respec, so it's not completely out of the question. What are we going to give him? So let's review the ship skills and have a quick look at what we want to set up the commander. She gets engine boost, rapid reload, and sonar. So no question here. We could get ourselves another sonar, but do I want to spec her for the recon skill? Because she does get the special Soviet additional damage control kit. So we definitely want to get the cooldown on that thing. Which one was it? Yeah, we want the high alert skill on this to get the damage control. I think I'm going to get the generalist because I've got, first it recovers HP, although it's not much. And I have 4 damage controls that I want to use. So we want to spec for that. Which means we're not using the recon skill, which means I'm actually not going to get it. I'm going to get the torpedo alert instead of getting a battlefield support for an additional sonar because I don't get the cooldown. So I'm going to stick with that. Obviously this. We do select, thank you. We do want an additional rapid reload, that's for sure. We don't get the precise aim, so she gets fully prepared. It's a battleship, we want the extinguisher skill. She does get an engine boost, so we can actually use the engine overload, which is unusual for a battleship. That isn't French, but we'll take it. And we want the master reloader. So the first things we're going to have to test is what the ideal spot is for, because I can't remember these things. What the ideal spot is for the for using the rapid reload. I know that there are resources out there. There used to be a website. I think it's not existing anymore. It's probably somewhere in the Elite Ship database, but that's the next thing we need to check as well. So the CIC. But for now, let's just test this out. So rapid reload 1 with the main battery mod for faster reload. So let's fire. That gets us to kind of 18.5 seconds or something. And I'm going to test with, I think it's about 5 seconds is a good spot for this. So let's try on 5 seconds for the rapid reload. 5, okay. And then we fire instantly once they recharge. Okay, we could actually trigger a bit earlier. We could probably trigger at 8. Because now we're not going to get a full run on the next one. So you see we've still got some leftover. We'll see how much we've got left over. At 6 seconds, we can even trigger at 9 probably. I like leaving like a second or so for retargeting. So let's try that again. And we're just going to exit battle because that's faster to recharge the to reload the guns than to wait not to reload the guns, to recharge the ship skill, and to wait for a minute here until that happens. So let's try that again, and we will try at 9 seconds and see if that's a good point to trigger the rapid reload. Wank. I'm not doing this religiously, but I'd like to know where the ideal point is. So 10, 9, and trigger. And then we get 1 salvo out, and that gives us enough time to even do like a 2-3 second retargeting. Yeah, I think 9 to 10 seconds is a good spot to do this. Okay. Because now, if the rapid reload expires before your guns are fully reloaded, then you have to pay the penalty. So that's why we're not doing it. Anyway, so that's sorted out. So now I'm going to run a test game against bots just to get a bit of a feel for how this thing behaves. And I'm doing this against bots because I don't want to penalize my team. Because sometimes I do stupid things. I just want to test like how the guns handle, how the ship handles. I don't necessarily want to win this. This is just me getting a little bit of a feel for the whole thing, and I'll also get an idea of kind of what she's able to do potentially. So we'll do a bot battle, and we'll have a bit of a look on how everything behaves here. All right, full speed ahead. It's just bots. We've got 12 kilometer range on the mains, and we've got 5.4 on the secondaries. They're the same secondaries as on the Cesare, so not an awful lot. We can use the engine boost to give us additional acceleration, and with the respective skill, it actually lasts for quite a bit. So with the engine boost up, this thing does 30 knots, which isn't terrible for a Tier 6 battleship. Now, obviously, in the back of my head, I'm trying to think of answering a couple of questions. Is it worth it? That's my main question, right? Is it worth getting the Blitz Pass for? And we're also going to have to compare to the Ismail, of course, because that's the tech tree the tech tree Soviet tier 6, the free one. She's reasonably quick, and we actually have something to shoot at. So there's a New Mexico. Let's line that up. We can lob this. New Mexico returns fire. We'll just duck under it. She definitely does not handle like a chaser. I mean, that is a lot more battleship-ish. So she's definitely a lot more sluggish than that. I should have used the rapid reload here already, but that's okay. We can use it on the next salvo. Shots out. I just want to see how the dispersion behaves. Close range probably. Secondary dispersion. Secondary dispersion is okay, but we're not getting an awful lot of secondaries. Okay, I'm a bit late now. We'll do it anyway. I don't have to min-max that here. Yeah, we're not punching through a New Mexico's belt at all. So we're gonna switch off the lock-on and see if we can get a couple of shots at the deck. And yeah, triple fire. That's much better. Yeah, deck shots at this range. Definitely able to Citadel in New Mexico. Let's get the lock back on. We do have a destroyer here with us. We don't have auto secondaries, but I'm just going to ignore it. And now we have a better angle, so I think now we can shoot again with the lock on, and we should be able to probably hit the deck from here. Yeah, that's a little bit better. But all in all, not the punchiest guns at tier 6. And I can't remember how many the Andrea Doria gets, but we don't get the semi-armor piercing. We do have the HE, but it could have been a bit more punchy, I guess. And then again, this might be a situation like a Yuga? A Yuga situation, where the guns are not actually that great, but you do get the rapid reload, and that makes all the difference. So let's see how they work against something like an aircraft carrier. Ah, the turning is dreadful. Okay, nice dispersion. And yep, that we can work with. So now we would obviously then trigger the rapid reload and sink the Zuiho. Doink. Yeah, New Mexico's, if you can hit the deck, they pop. So this is I don't generally play with the APCS because not many people have that. I mean, honestly, I don't have that skill on many. I think I have the skill on 2 of my captains, on von Hipper on the Großer Kurfürst, and on my captain on the Minotaur. But I don't have that skill on a lot of ships. It's not easy to get. It's taking an awful lot of time to grind, and I assume that most people don't have it, and that's why I don't generally use it during my reviews, because not everybody has that, and it would kind of give you a wrong impression of what you would get if you were to play the ship. I do it on the maxed videos, and that's why I'm kind of setting that distinction. Okay, we've got more New Mexicos to shoot at. Unfortunately, we have nothing other than New Mexicos to shoot at. So, dispersion, look at that. Oh, we still got some shots on target, but yo, that was pretty dramatically bad. And rapid reload up for a second salvo, just to do a little bit more damage and see how they play at range. That's a bit better, but definitely questionable dispersion. We do not need to target weak spots. The 320s are perfectly capable of hitting or of going through a deck of superstructure armor and everything like that. So now we're getting into secondary range, and we'll just finish off these 2 New Mexicos here. But I would like to see how the armor holds up. So let's take a couple of shots. Yeah, it was okay. And return fire. Over penetrations. That's why you don't want to hit the bow section, actually. So I should have aimed a little bit higher there. But that's okay. We're going to get another shot off. The turrets haven't been shot off so far, which is quite encouraging. Let's switch off the auto-aim, such that I can actually hit the deck armor. Yep, that was better. And we'll switch it back on for the secondaries. So how does... can she get another salvo off on me? Let's see. Come on, give me another main gun salvo. I want to see how the armor holds up. Come on. Come on, you can do it. I mean, bots can swing. There we go. Okay, so the belt holds up. The belt definitely holds up. And the dispersion is a bit questionable, but with the rapid reload at close range, with the engine boost, I'm seeing a ship that might be able to brawl here. So now this gives me a bit of an idea. Right? This gives me a bit of an idea how I want to play this ship first. So what have I learned? First of all, the turrets appear to be sturdy enough not to be shot off instantly with the main battery mod 2. So we're starting out with a base reload of 19 seconds, which is not terrible. And then plus the actual consumables, so it's a little bit faster. I think if I'm on a brawling situation, probably more like 10 to 11 seconds when I can trigger. So rapid reload. And the very next thing, the very one thing that I'm going to do now is have a brief look at the CIC website and see if I can spot anything interesting in terms of hidden stats. So let's have a look. Let's actually start out with the Giulio Cesare. So we've got 19 bow and stern armor, 80 deck armor, and 250mm belt. And so these are interesting stats. Let's compare that and see if that's changed in any way. No, it's the exact same. So the armor is the same as on the Cesare. And see if the main guns have changed in any way. Initial velocity 272, and it's the same here. So it looks like the only thing that happened is that we have slightly better range, because this is the Cesare here, and we both have a sigma of 1. Yeah, so citadel chance. Oh, this is interesting. So the Cesare has a citadel chance of 6%, whereas the Novorossiysk has a citadel chance of 7%, so a slightly higher citadel chance. So this is good to know. And yeah, the secondaries should be exactly the same. Yep. Yeah, they do slightly more damage, but they are the same guns for all intents and purposes. So actually, hang on. No, the Cesare seems to have different secondaries, at least according to the CIC website. So I'm going to have to review that. And yes, one thing that's actually added that I missed, the Cesare gets auto secondaries. This thing does not. So yeah, AA, identical for all intents and purposes. And concealment, same thing. Cool. So the very next thing that I'm going to do is to play some test games. And usually I play somewhere around 5 to 10 games with a ship, just to ensure that the initial setup that I've just figured out is working, what kind of playstyle works for this thing. But I've got a basic idea, and I'm going to have to do a little bit more research if I find out anything about the reason why this thing would be higher in the water, and about the improved torpedo protection. So that's just something I'm going to do offline and do just some internet research. I don't think I have any other literature on these ships, so I can check the. I do have the Axis Battleships book, so I'll check that and see if there's anything in there, because the Cesare might be in there, but it would be a bit of a stretch if they would have included the post-war modifications. But yeah, so I'll be doing some test games, and I'll see you again once I've got all the necessary stuff recorded, and then then we can proceed to the editing process. So I have now recorded all the footage that is necessary, and I can now start the editing process. A very quick word on hardware. I'm playing on an ASUS ROG phone, and that is also what I generally would use for camera work and anything. The audio gets recorded on a laptop. I've got a Blue Yeti microphone standing there in front of me, and I've got an HP Omen kind of mid-range gaming laptop, which is the workhorse, which does all the things: editing, recording, rendering, uploading, all those things. I do this all on PC. The laptop's running Linux, just in case the desktop is looking a little unusual. So this is the usual structure of what I would end up with after a session of doing things. I have the two battles here in the folder. I've got the voiceover for the battles. I've got some screenshots here. I've got the review video. That's the screen recording from when I was doing a review. And I've got the audio that I've been recording. And in terms of software, like I said, I'm using Linux on a laptop, Audacity for any kind of audio work, audio recording, audio editing. And I'm using KDN Live to actually do the video editing. So what I'm going to do here then is I'm going to start adding all the things that I need. And we'll start out with the intro. I've asked you earlier if you're still in favor of the intro, and most of you have said yes, you are. So I'm leaving that there. That's the first thing that goes in there. And then I'm going to add all the clips from the that I need here, probably except for the PNGs, because these are going to be in titles. And we don't need to transcode any of that. And yeah, then the work begins of just adding that in here. So I'm lining up the audio and the video. Actually, I'm going to, given that this is the port, I'm going to delete the game audio here because the ports can actually be surprisingly noisy. So I don't usually leave that in. And then I'm just gonna put that into start, put that there, and we'll fade in the video. And I generally, from a microphone position, my voice isn't particularly stable. If I get excited, I tend to get a little noisy, so I've tuned it a bit down. So generally it's about, I have to listen to the recording now, obviously, but I generally would give it like 4 or 5 decibels on top. And yeah, then I'll be going through the recording, making sure that I haven't messed up anything. And where necessary, I'm actually going to start adding things like, not here, that's the wrong one. Novorossiysk. Yeah, so I can add imagery into it. I can add effects into it. All these kind of things that generally become part of a video. I can add additional audio tracks. I have a whole library of. I can show you that rather briefly. I've got a library of all my audio tracks here that I normally use. I've got all the images that I generally use, and yeah, a couple movie clips, and the stuff for the silent movies, a couple more movie clips, and that's the sort of thing that's how I'm organizing generally my videos. So yeah, once that work is completed, then I will still need a historical image. So for that, I usually Wikimedia Commons is not a bad source. So if we look for the Novorossiysk, let's see if we get anything here, because a lot of the this is going to show me is that the actual explosion from it? No, that's the Novorossiysk harbor, because it's going to give me the images of the city. Let's see if we find anything on the with battleship. Yeah, we get a couple of images. So that is not it, but I think that is the Novorossiysk in Sevastopol. And the good thing about Wikimedia Commons is that you can see what the licenses are, and it's a public domain in the United States, which is the most important because the US are the most trigger happy when it comes to copyright enforcement. Other countries are a lot more mellow, but in the US you have to be careful. So I generally make sure that any imagery or any audio I'm using is either I have a license for or is at least Creative Commons attribution, in which case I'll leave a link in the description, or in this case it's public domain, so I can totally just use that image. And I'm going to be saving that, and it doesn't go in here because that's the wrong one. This is the actual review, the other one was the making of it. So we'll save that there, and then that'll go into the project as part of the history section. Now I have to check actually where that is, because I haven't actually listened to the audio right now because I'm screen recording this. But this is generally the whole thing. And then I'm going to go here and start and start uploading. As you can see, I've already pre-uploaded a couple of things. They're not yet edited, so don't look too closely. But then this will all go up. This will go up to YouTube, and then this will be scheduled ahead of time. So I generally record everything on the weekend, edit everything out on the weekend as much as I can, and then get that all sent, uploaded and ready and scheduled for the week, because during the week I tend to be too busy to do these kind of things because of, day job and actually earning a living. So yeah, that in short is how I am producing a World of Warships Blitz video. So if that's been interesting to you, if you've got any questions, I'll leave a link to I'll leave the description of the technical, the hardware and the software down in the description. And if you've got any questions on the process of how I'm doing it, then feel free to ask. I know that some people are completely using mobile, and that's totally valid. I prefer using a PC for these sort of things, just because it gives me more. I'm more used to that sort of to that sort of approach. I'm not that familiar with fiddling around on a phone, trying to get frames to line up. That's not something I do. So I'm trying to optimize this for quality, and that's how I do it. Anyway, so hopefully you found that somewhat interesting. Thanks everybody, and I'll see you all next time. Bye bye.